Who's on your short list of best competitors you've faced?
Michael Jordan, Allen Iverson are the two that come to mind immediately. From opening tip to the end, I mean, this guy was just going and going and going, and he'd always put you in jeopardy. So those two guys are the most competitive I faced.
All right, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Hope you all are doing good today. So I wanted to check this out and actually, I had this video on my backlog for a long time. Completely forgot about it. I can't lie, I have a huge backlog now. But in the comments, somebody suggested this to me, and then when I found out that, I was like, oh yeah, I was supposed to do this months ago. I'm like, all right, today's the day. So here we are. This is a video by Thinking Basketball, which is one of my favorite YouTube channels out there. And this is titled, Are Analytics Wrong About Allen Iverson? And this is part of a series of his called Offensive Legends, Episode 3. I'm a huge Allen Iverson fan, and I know when we think of Allen Iverson and statistics or anything like that, a lot of us think about the shooting percentage. And that ended up being around 41%, I believe, for his career. So I'm always interested in seeing stuff that can kind of change the narrative of that, because the types of shots he was taking and the era that he played in with still hand checking involved. It's like, imagine Steph Curry if there was hand checking. It would be a completely different story. Like, he'd have to take way more contested shots, and he'd have to deal with a lot more contact on his way to the basket or during these shots. And that's the life that Allen Iverson had to live. So I'm very curious about what Thinking Basketball has to say about Mr. Iverson here. Anyways, without further ado, I'm going to link the original video down below in the description box, as I always do. So if you want to check out Thinking Basketball's channel, which I highly recommend, head over there, give it a subscribe. Everybody else, please leave this video right here a like. It helps me out a ton, and I thank you all very much every time you do it. Let's enjoy this.
Allen Iverson is one of history's most polarizing players. Some consider him one of the best ever. Others think his style of play was selfish and inefficient. So, where's the truth? Would he have been more successful playing a different way? Do modern stats really paint him in a negative light? Or do they struggle to capture the value of one of the more complex offensive players in NBA history?
Allen Iverson, it's a complicated thing.
Where's Larry Bird in all this?
It's complicated for me even, and I've always been a huge Iverson fan.
The first season of Greatest Peaks was about the best of the best. But this time we're looking at trendsetters, unique archetypes, and even controversial players who make up the legends of NBA offense.
You know there's going to be a Steph Curry episode if he hasn't done it yet.
Who's on your short list of best competitors you've faced?
Michael Jordan, Allen Iverson are the two that come to mind immediately.
Competitors.
From
Yep.
opening tip to the end, I mean, this guy was just going and going and going, and he'd always put you in jeopardy. So those two guys are the most competitive I faced.
For most of NBA history, the very best players
And that's a lot of respect, by the way. So competition-wise, yeah, no, Allen Iverson was fierce as they come.
all been tall. Bob Cousy won the 1957 MVP at 6'1", and then the next 43 MVPs went to players who were 6'5" or taller until Allen Iverson. AI was listed at 6 feet, although he's probably closer to 5'11" barefoot, but he overcame a lack of size with quickness, ball handling, and ingenuity.
It's crazy because when he was younger, he was still throwing it down, dunking, I mean. And 5'11", 6 foot, jeez.
Before Iverson, dribbling wizards kept the ball closer to their body.
Yep.
And the best crossover dribbles were often short and quick, snapping the ball from one hand to the other to throw off a defense.
Yeah, the ball handles went through a progression. Isaiah Thomas broke new ground. Tim Hardaway took that and extended it. Yeah, right here. And Allen Iverson took that and extended it. And I would say the next one to really do it, I might be skipping one generation. I'm not sure. But the next one to really do it has been Kyrie Irving. And just, we'll see what the next evolution is.
But Allen's crossover was longer
Yep.
and wider, hesitating and bringing the ball away from his body before scraping it across the court to blow by his man.
It was actually
This
illegal
was occasionally
until
called
this
a
era.
carrying violation when Iverson entered the league because of that cupping or scooping in the air.
Yep, that right there. That right there used to be considered illegal. So you can't have your hand off to the side. And Thinking Basketball has covered it, actually himself. You used to have to be palming the ball right there. So you'd have to like slap down on the ball.
That radically changed the direction of the ball, but within a few seasons, pausing and cupping the dribble was viewed as legal, so AI broke his share of ankles with this innovative crossover. His ball handling paired perfectly with his quickness and balance, stopping on a dime like he was hit with a freeze ray. Ty Lue keeps going, and Iverson ends up with free throws. Woo!
Yeah,
This
indeed.
is ridiculous Formula One braking to spin away for a clutch.
I got to look at that again. That happens so fast.
This is ridiculous Formula One braking
man.
to spin away for a clutch bucket in this playoff game. And I don't fully understand the physics here.
I know.
But his back knee nearly scrapes the
What the heck is this? And then he's gonna spin right around within like a split second.
floor as he pirouettes in the other direction before that beautiful kiss off the glass.
It's almost like a dance move.
With his package of crossovers, hesitations, and sheer agility, staying in front of Iverson was like trying to hold water in the palm of your hand.
Poor Isaiah Ryder.
And he had this unparalleled knack for slithering into tight spaces, hopping between two defenders whose feet are touching, only to explode vertically and finish over Shaq.
Yeah, Dwayne Wade, huge fan of Allen Iverson. And Dwayne Wade was the next one I saw be able to split defenses like that. Isaiah learned a little bit. Kobe learned a little bit of that off of Dwayne Wade. But D. Wade was phenomenal at it. But yeah, Allen Iverson was that guy first. He'd split two bigs all the time.
For someone pushing 6 feet tall, AI had some hops
Oh, wow.
when he was younger, and he didn't really play above the rim, but that bounce helped him find some very creative finishes among the trees. He had all kinds of little flip shots and reverse layups around the basket, and these kinds of finishes are usually reserved for 6'6" wings instead of undersized guards.
Yeah, that's
But
crazy.
He had the chutzpah to just hurl himself toward defenders and the English to spin home some
Wow.
shots that had almost no business going in.
Yeah, he didn't care about contact. If he got hit, he was looking for the hits.
I mean, he
was a
shoots
90s
this
boy.
thing under the defender's arms like it's one of those mind-bending trick shots in pool. If we look at rim attempts from the early 2000s, Stephon Marbury was the only other guard to regularly shoot at the basket more frequently than Iverson. And in 2001, AI used that crafty touch to shoot an impressive 64% at the hoop. He also used his quickness to draw a ton of fouls on drives, ranking 4th among guards in NBA history in multi-year free throw rates, behind only James Harden, Dwayne Wade, and Michael Jordan, despite standing 4 to 6 inches shorter than them.
Yep.
Allen was constantly hop-stepping around traffic
That's
in the
sick.
paint, and he used that.
I don't even know how to explain it. I wanted to say look at and then describe it, but I can't even have words to describe this.
Allen was constantly
Just look at the directions.
hop-stepping
And now he's going to twist.
around traffic in the
That's-
paint, and he
Wow.
used that technique to move laterally into soft pockets in the defense. He beats his man, then heads right into this space in the lane to set up a nice little no-look assist. Then on the very next play, LA is forcing him baseline, so he works back to the middle just to cross over and then hop step
And
through a
split.
little crease in the lane.
Yep. Yeah, he created a situation where he could split. Watch
just
this.
to cross over and
Right there.
then hop step
by getting him up, he created a situation where he could just split.
Through a little
And even if he didn't have the score, he had an open man right here.
crease in the lane. Watch how he probes the defense here, keeping his dribble alive even with extra bodies thrown at him, only to find a little soft spot to shoot from.
Oh, too easy.
And the hop step in particular let him attack in traffic while protecting the ball. He picks it up to hop right through defenders into a little space for a tough mid-ranger here.
Yeah, he loved that spot.
And he took a lot of shots like this in the short mid-range. He had a little floater or leaning jump shot from this range where he'd pick it up early to avoid shot blockers and just lob it over them instead. So defenders were desperately trying to stay in front of him, and then he just hit him with a pull-up from the mid-range. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about Iverson is how, despite his diminutive stature, he created just enough space to shoot from all over the court. The ball handling, quickness, deceleration, and high release opened up a world of mid-range shots, and many of these were not easy.
Yeah, look at the pretty arc he has on the shots too.
He could
high release and high arc.
Them going in just about any direction, leaning or off balance, but either way he lived off a diet of difficult shots from all over the court. Naturally, he had a little step back jumper too. There was no gather step back then, so this was often a small hop, but it was his way of moving backwards to create the space needed to shoot. And even at his height, that was enough space to pop threes over smaller defenders because they were always on their heels trying to take away his penetration, giving him room to rise and fire. That meant he could use the classic triple threat position and jab step at opponents to move them before dribbling to set up a shot. And on this one, he catches it on the move just to rock Kobe Bryant with that step and open airspace to launch. Despite his legendary ball handling, Iverson played quite a bit away from the ball in Philadelphia under our old friend Larry Brown.
Honestly, I think that's when he played his best, similar to Michael Jordan. Might have scored a little bit less, but I think that's when he was the most effective, running around, being off the ball.
Brown actually jumped from Indiana to Philly in 1998, and he brought similar off-ball actions for Iverson that we saw for Reggie Miller in the last episode. He could start down on the baseline and work off a bunch of screens for a jumper up top. He could counter off those screens and use his speed to create space on the other side of the court. And he really loved to sprint horizontally from one wing to the other to create a little separation and then go to work. It could be awkward for defenders to go under this foul line screen, so when they chased him over the top, he would find a little shooting pocket. So when he'd run across the face of the court on that patented cut, he could shoot or attack the space and break down the defense, and that leads to good offense for Philadelphia here. This time he's being chased into the corner and then uses that defender's momentum against him to hop into traffic and find an open dunk.
He's crazy. He's crazy.
That defender's momentum.
Right, that's where he catches the ball. You would think he would take the shot right there. But who's crazy enough to actually go into this mess? Allen Iverson is. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't be going right into Shaq like that. He's insane. Look at this.
Against him to hop into traffic.
But it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Shaq, he's got all of Shaq's attention. Easy dish off. Easy dish off right there. I'm just blown away.
And find an open dunk.
You crazy, AI.
In that sense, Iverson, especially during the Larry Brown years, was really a hybrid of an off-ball.
I'm just curious at the reads. Like, what is he going to see here? Because at this point, I would say he's going to the lane, and then I would say he'd be going into the lane, and then he'd have a drop-off right here from Mutombo coming in because he's got his attention. But I don't even know. AI's crazy. He might pull back.
And on-ball player. Yeah. But even though he ran around
so if I watch his whole career and I can't even predict what he's going to do, how the hell are people supposed to predict what he's going to do when they're playing man-to-man against him? That's what made Allen Iverson so hard.
Some of the best movement shooters of that era and splashed.
Catch. You're going baseline. You got to go baseline. or you dish it off right here to Mutombo. But honestly, he's got a clear path to the lane if he goes baseline, right? This is what makes basketball sense. Layup right here. Because, yeah, Mutombo's got the inside position. You're not going anywhere. The only one you got to worry about is him coming in to stop you. Okay, let's see how this plays off. He already has him off balance, so that should be easy.
Ton of outside
He just
shots.
takes a shot.
There was something
I give up. I'm done.
very different about
What
AI
the hell?
that made this offensive approach so polarizing.
I think for a guy his size, he was the most intimidating player. Because that was the thing that made him so tough. Because some guys you would play against, and Rick, they're going to take 16, 18 shots a game. Iverson would go out there and take 35, 40 shots.
From 1999 to 2006, no one in the NBA scored more points than Allen Iverson. No one took more shots either.
Yeah.
Take this game against the Lakers from 2005, where Iverson was his usual unwavering self, pressuring LA from the jump with his dribble drive game, working off the ball when needed just to hop step through the paint, and using that crossover and athleticism to get to his sweet spots. Only, as he kept shooting these, he kept missing, and fittingly, that didn't dissuade him in the slightest, clanking a tough mid-ranger, only to try an open three from the corner, and since that didn't work, he just took it to the basket, but was easily dismissed. By the end of the third, AI was a chilly 2 for 20 from the floor, and while every player has bad shooting nights, these were more common for Iverson than most high-volume.
Damn. Yeah, 2 for 20. 11 assists. Huh.
Scorers historically. If we account for threes and free throws by looking at true shooting percentage, Iverson had a ton of cold shooting games.
Yeah, he did.
In his 57 playoff contests from 99 to 03, he shot under 45% in true shooting a whopping 25 times. For comparison, Reggie Miller was under 45% just 5 times during the entire 1990s.
Yeah. Reggie Miller was a true shooter. 100%. That's what makes him so special. He rarely had a bad night. Allen Iverson did have bad nights, and that's what gave him that percentage. But when he was on, he was on. When he wasn't, he wasn't.
So if Iverson took plenty of threes and drew so many fouls, why wasn't he more efficient? Well, we've already seen one reason. He takes really tough shots.
Yeah.
This is a double-edged sword because these are the very shots that terrorize defenders and lead to 50-point scoring outbursts, but this is still a crossover into a leaning 20-footer with a hand in his face. Tough shot makers are kind of cursed in this sense, almost like the scientists in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Yeah.
Another
I
factor.
love that line, by the way. When we're talking about like AI nowadays, that's always the line I think of. Like, should we be doing this? I know we can, and that's the test that we do in humanity is if we can, we got to do it. We got to try to do it. But have we stopped to think, should we be doing this? Anyways, back to basketball. Kobe Bryant suffered from the same type of shooting that Allen Iverson did. Not that he had cold nights and hot nights so much, but Allen Iverson and Kobe Bryant took incredibly difficult shots. Kobe got a little better at that in the second half of his career as he started emulating older Michael Jordan more, and he played more in the post. But prior to that, Kobe was straight up just bombing crazy threes with a guy right in his face at will. He would do it all the time, and he'd hit him too. And to average 40-something% at that point is still insane. But that's what gives them the lower percentage, is that they took way more hard shots, very contested, difficult shots than, say, prime Michael Jordan did.
Are kind of cursed in this sense, almost like the scientists in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Ask that question to yourselves every day, people.
Another factor you may have noticed is just how many of his jumpers were long twos, Another difficult shot with lower returns than a 3 or something closer. And did you catch his form on that one? He doesn't snap his wrist and basically stops his follow through. And this was something
Yeah, he was
did
sliding to the left too, but that was to avoid the block.
quite often, trying to just gently touch it in on this difficult twisting pull-up. Broadcasters would occasionally talk about the inconsistencies or backwards lean in his jumper, and I think this was related to his form, where he'd whip the ball over his head before leaving the ground, then power it to the rim in the air.
Oh yeah, he does like a little, I don't even know what to call. Let me get back here. So he's got, come on now. Come on, YouTube. You can do it. Come on. Okay. So it's going through like multiple phases here. I want to see if I can slow this down. Actually, I don't need to do that. Sorry. I can just go like this. It's not coming in too well. I got to get better at this. I apologize, you guys. But it seems like he's cranking it back, and then he's doing like a second crank. I'll just play it full speed here. Sorry about that, guys. Normally that works a little better.
Rim and he'd whip the ball over his head before leaving the ground.
Okay, so like right there, it's already held back, right? And then you're gonna watch him whip it back one more time before the push.
Then power it to the rim.
See that? I don't know. Am I tripping on that? But it does look more like when he's releasing the ball, like Thinking Basketball is saying, he is kind of pushing the ball as opposed to flicking it off at the tips of his fingers, which is the traditional jump shot.
And this takes a ton of strength. So naturally, his legs kicked out underneath him to compensate. Here you can see he's off the ground and then starts moving the ball to the basket, but never straightens the arm on the follow through. Yet later in the same game, when he's wide open, it's a more fluid motion and the follow through is straight.
Yeah, that looks good.
Iverson,
but he's also uncontested at that point. So if he doesn't have somebody contesting the shot, he was able to just spot shoot right there, straight up and down. So he obviously knows how. It's just a matter of, once again, like I said in the intro, he rarely got uncontested shots. So he had to manipulate and he had to manipulate his body constantly in order to get enough free space to get that ball off. So it's hard to get a true pure shot.
Took a ton of long shots. About 40% of his overall scoring attempts came from at least 15 feet away.
Not surprised.
But his best 2-year stretch landed him in just the 30th percentile historically. That's 10% worse than a sharpshooter like Allen Houston on a similar number of long 2s and 3s. Some of these shots that he missed were great looks, some were really difficult, and some were just trigger-happy jumpers before looking for something better. Here's one where he tries to catch the defense off guard, ends up with a contested drifting shot, but that at least drew 2 defenders and opened up a teammate for the rebound and a putback.
Yeah, see, that was his average type of shot where he's drifting from side to side, or at least fading away, or a combination of both.
So one benefit to AI's shooting aggression was that teams reacted to it, freeing up his teammates. When he drives by his man on this play, multiple defenders converge on his hop step, which leaves a shooter wide open for an almost 3. All of his agility and ball handling that knifed through defenses opened up good shots for teammates too. So
yeah, look at the gravity of this. Like, we talk about this defensively, or I talk about this defensively with Wemby right now.
3.
Hold on.
All of his agility.
Wherever Wemby is on defense, everyone goes away from him. But look at what's going on offensively also. He's quick like lightning. But he's not going to stay away. He's going to go right into the traffic, because then everyone is going to just gravitate towards him. And then he's got his options for who he wants to pass to at that point. 1, 2, 3 should be his options, if I remember correctly. But that's very powerful on the offensive end if you can just make a simple blow-by move and draw the attention and the gravity of the entire defense, the entire defense.
And ball handling that knifed through defenses,
And there
opened
you
up
go.
good
Everyone is surrounding him now. So he's got his options. You got multiple options to pass to.
shots for teammates too. So Allen was a volume scorer and a volume playmaker, hitting the 99th percentile historically in estimated shots created for teammates. All of Iverson's heavy lifting carried the Sixers to above average playoff offenses, falling in the 60th percentile historically relative to the defenses they faced, which was actually better than their defensive performances by this same measure, which is kind of remarkable for a team that mainly surrounded AI with a ton of defensive talent. The occasional possessions where Iverson just idled away from the action were quite bumpy because Aaron McKie was their only other decent creator, and many of their good defenders like Tyrone Hill, Dikembe Mutombo, and Eric Snow were fairly limited when asked to pressure defenses themselves. As the 2001 playoffs unfolded, defenses started loading up on him to get the ball out of his hands. And sometimes this meant sliding an extra defender into his driving lane to stop penetration, to force a weaker teammate to beat them instead. But it also meant outright double teaming him on the perimeter and then scrambling and recovering behind the play, even with his outside shooting issues. That poor shooting Laker game is a perfect example. Despite all the misses, Iverson carved up Los Angeles for his teammates, creating shot after shot all night long. This version of AI played more on ball than the early 2000s, which meant more pick and roll game and touching the paint with the intent to set up better shots. I think he was a little bit better as a passer by this point, finding space and not telegraphing this bullet to the corner for a great look. And his pick and roll reads were sharper, wrapping this perfectly around a defender for an easy dunk, whereas later in the game he had a similar setup but went to a quick pocket pass to catch everyone off guard. Allen actually played point guard until 1999, but he had more of a shoot-first mentality. So Larry Brown moved him to the 2 guard, where he could harness more of his off-ball game and scoring instincts, while at the same time sneaking another passer and defender into the starting lineup in Eric Snow.
Yeah, that was smart.
By the way, shoot first doesn't mean ball hog or an unwillingness to pass. It means he's less likely to move it to a mediocre three-point shooter than to take a contested pull-up himself. This is the pinhead that offensive engines have to dance on. Do you pass the ball for a marginal advantage, or do you take a difficult shot on your own?
Oof.
Iverson
he loved that spot, by the way. Anytime he got around this area, I think I don't have the numbers to prove it, but I would be willing to say in the mid-range, this is his highest percentage shot right here. When he was coming in from the angles, from the sides, I would see him miss a lot more, or even out here. But right here, for some reason, this whole zone, he dominated. And like that shot prior, that looks really, really difficult, right?
Or do you take a
like
difficult
that's a
shot
crazy shot, but
on
cash
your
money.
own? Iverson was good enough as a distributor.
And I'm sorry, one last thing is I think he knows
this
that
is the
because
pinhead that offensive engines have to dance on.
Catch and shoot right here would make so much sense. A 3 right there, catch and shoot, but that's not his spot. So he moves into his spot, even though there's a lot of traffic that's gonna follow him. He knows that's a better shot for him.
Pass the ball for a marginal advantage, or do you take a difficult shot on your own? Iverson was good enough as a distributor that he would bypass most tough mid-rangers for an open layup, But his size also limited his vision at times and curtailed some of these high-value passing spots. On a play like
he
this,
normally has to pass low instead of pass high because he does not have the height advantage.
the big man sort of blocks his sight lines to a teammate under the rim before he gives it away.
Whoops.
And I think he probably connects on more passes like this with a little more height, never really spotting the open man in transition. His best passes were probably on drives where he could drop it off around the basket, because he had a good sense of drawing extra defenders and punishing the help. Sometimes he just made solid reads. The Lakers send a double, and he skips a beautiful pass across court that creates an advantage and ultimately free throws at the rim. During some of these playoff runs, defenses could telescope on AI because Philly surrounded him with defenders who lacked offensive punch, which raises a critical question. Could Iverson and his teams have been more efficient if he was surrounded with more offensive talent?
Absolutely. Absolutely, they would have been.
Who's your point guard?
I'm gonna go with AI, because he was fearless.
In 2006, AI averaged a career-best 33 points a game while carrying yet another offensively limited roster. The following year, he was traded to the Denver Nuggets, finally giving him a collection of more offensively oriented teammates, along with another big scorer to shoulder the load in Carmelo Anthony.
I'm not going to lie, I was so excited when he went to Denver, and I am so disappointed they did not have any success out there. Like, it really, this whole experiment changed, like, the way I view AI, and it changed the way I viewed Carmelo at that time. Because I can't believe they didn't get it done. Like, they didn't even come close to winning, and it still shocks me.
Iverson was a little stiffer and a touch slower, but he was still shiftier and quicker than everyone with basically the same skill set.
He was still AI, 100%.
And, of course, that open court speed was always a challenge to contain for the entire league. The Nuggets were an above-average offense before trading for Iverson because they had players who could shoot or break down defenses on their own. Carmelo, in particular, was an interesting fit because he ran a lot of isolation or two-man actions himself on one side of the floor while everyone else stood around and watched. This left a number of possessions where Iverson was idle on the weak side of the court, or he was relegated to spot-up shooting duty, only teams were happy to leave him and go help because they weren't really worried about his three ball. Since those teammates were more of a threat, Allen faced less defensive pressure, but that didn't really change his shot diet. In Philly, Iverson was regularly around 30 points per game on true shooting that was slightly below league average. In Denver, his volume dropped as he did less, but his efficiency only rose a touch despite the healthier offensive environment.
That surprised me right there. With the one-on-ones he was getting, because he wasn't getting double-teamed anymore, I'm shocked he didn't get to the basket more often, because he was quick enough to do it. But like Thinking Basketball is saying, I think he was kind of set in his ways by that point. So he's still playing as though he's getting a constant double team, which led him to a lot of, fadeaways or, step back threes, whatever you want to call them in that era. And, I think he could have got to the basket at will, though.
What's even more head-scratching is that Denver's offensive effectiveness didn't change when Andre Miller was traded for Iverson mid-season. And in his two postseasons there, the Nuggets' playoff offenses were worse than Philadelphia's offenses with Iverson. Then when Denver swapped out Iverson for Chauncey Billups, the Nuggets became an elite playoff offense. So what is going on here? Carmelo's growth certainly helped in 2009, and other players always change a little from year to year, but I also think Iverson's strengths are always going to help offensively inept teams, but they won't necessarily fit with better teammates, especially those who need the ball to provide a lot of value. When someone like Anthony drew extra defensive attention, better shooting would improve the offense. Long contested twos early in the clock are worse with better teammates.
Yeah, see, like that. And I'm not trying to diss AI. I'm a huge fan, but I really wanted him to win a championship here. He didn't need to take this shot.
Twos early in the clock.
Okay. He already had the momentum to blow by. All right. He's fast. He could have gone straight to the basket here. But instead,
are worse
he pulled
with
back.
Better teammates because skilled offensive units will stress defenses and usually create a better shot than a covered 20-footer. And the difficult shots in a crowd become suboptimal when an open shooter is actually good.
Yeah.
This is why it's incredibly rare for good offenses to feature high-volume, inefficient scorers. Only 6 volume scorers in NBA history have been 1% below league average efficiency on an above-average offense. LaMarcus Aldridge is the only one to ever do it on a top 20% regular season offense, and Carmelo's the only one to do it on a really good playoff offense. Although Dominique Wilkins just missed doing it on both a great regular season and postseason attack.
Lord.
Wilkins and his teams grabbed a ton of offensive rebounds and didn't turn it over much. And Iverson was a moderately low turnover player himself, especially when he was making a scoring move. And that ball security is often lost in the discussion of high volume scorers who don't have the best shooting numbers. If we included turnovers in these scoring attempts, players like Dominique and AI were probably just above league average instead of being below it. And while it's a small thing, it's a reminder that there's more to the scoring game than just shooting percentage.
I'm actually impressed that AI didn't average more turnovers. But yeah, he was pretty careful with the ball. He usually got that shot off.
Iverson's relentless stamina also helped him play an extraordinary 45 minutes a night in the playoffs. So he squeezed out a little extra value per game than his per possession numbers would indicate.
Which still shocks me. Like, he's just built different because we know now, he's talked about it a lot. He was out clubbing and partying all the time during the season. So how did he still have this much energy? Like, he never stopped running around.
And his endurance meant he could run around away from the ball under Larry Brown and provide value with his movement. This was a lesser version of the same gravitational effect we saw last episode with Reggie Miller. And buzzing around a ton like this provides another subtle playmaking boost that isn't always captured statistically. Take this play where Orlando is so cued in on Iverson that Penny Hardaway leaves the ball handler to double him, which leaves the paint completely open to attack.
Penny, what were you doing there? Wow, that was pretty funny, actually. Oh, yeah, that's gravity, guys. That's what I was trying to talk about earlier. That's freaking gravity.
AI did all this while taking a pounding, constantly racking up minor injuries and playing through aches and pains. And despite being one of the lightest players in the league, he took a beating, but just kept on driving to the basket.
Yeah, screw longevity. This is durability. He had so many small injuries, bumps and bruises, aches and pains all the time. And he was out partying and stuff. And he still showed up every game. And he played 40-something, like high 40s, like 40 to 45 minutes a game. Guy's just absolutely insane. That's durability.
From 2000 to 2002, Iverson missed 31 games, and the 76ers played at a 35-win pace with an offense that was 6 points per 100 below league average. That's in the 4th percentile historically. But with AI, they were an average offense that played like a 51-win team. That's a big floor-raising effort, and although Philly never beat a team with more than 53 wins in the playoffs, Iverson made them competitive enough to reach the finals by doing just enough damage with his tough shot making. Personally, I value impact on higher level teams more than weaker ones. But those early 2006ers may have been perfect for Iverson's do-everything playstyle, where a roster of gritty defenders needed him to serve as the primary playmaker, and they even needed him to shoot when his teammates were open. And to me, this is what makes Iverson so fascinating. The same approach that dragged his teams to competitive heights might not work as well for a championship contender, and yet he was so much more than just his field goal percentage, and all of that certainly makes him an offensive legend. To support this channel, check out patreon.com/thinkingbasketball. That's the best way to directly support us, and you can get a bunch of additional content, proprietary stats, and access to our Discord community, along with a bunch more. We also have merchandise that you can find down below the video, and we have an entire episode on the Thinking Basketball podcast about Iverson as well. Hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks as always for watching, and wherever you are, of course, I hope you're having a great day.
Man, that was fun. That was really fun. Good breakdown, good honest breakdown by Thinking Basketball. It's why I love this channel. Like, you can tell this guy just really knows the game of basketball, and he's not afraid to show us. And I love piggybacking off of his videos because he's always pointing out something that I didn't notice, and then that leads me down a path of noticing other things. And I really appreciate that because that's rare. You know, it's not gossip or drama or anything. It's like pure basketball. And I need that every so often. So, what'd you guys think? Do you guys like the video? Did this change anything about how you view Allen Iverson? For me, it stayed the same. Allen Iverson has always been one of those guys now, like post-career, that's hard for me to place. Because there was a time where, like, he was the closest thing I've ever seen to Michael Jordan. And that went on until about, like, 2002, right around there. And then I started noticing Kobe, and then I started noticing Dwayne Wade, and not so much Melo. I gotta be honest, not hating here. I was just never too impressed by Melo. Probably because he never played a lick of defense. Honestly, that really is why. But like throughout his career, like I got to a point with AI where I'm like, for some reason, he can't win. Like he can win a lot of games, but like he can't win a championship for some reason with his style. And I never knew what it was. I never hear about him being like toxic in the locker room. He's always accountable. He's never blaming his teammates. So it's like he's not bringing drama to the game, but for some reason, no matter what, they can never get over the hump. Got to the finals once, won one game against the most stacked Lakers team ever. But that was as far as he ever got. I still to this day can't really explain why an Allen Iverson team was incapable of winning a championship. But now that his career is over, it's like I just had to accept it. Like it never happened. But Allen Iverson's always going to be one of my favorite players, you guys. There's no doubting it. I loved watching him play. I'd go out of my way to catch Philly and Denver games when he was on the roster. Always fun, always exciting. Huge competitor, huge heart, and I'm enjoying him post career too. Whenever I see him on a podcast or something, I'm right there because I love the stuff he says. One thing you got to admit about Allen Iverson is that he's honest, he's pure, and he's full of love, this guy. So anyways, let me know what you guys thought about this one. Once again, the link to the original video from Thinking Basketball is down below in the description. He's got a ton of videos just like this, and I'm sure he's got one about your favorite player. So without further ado, I'm going to head out of here for now. Please leave this video a like if you haven't done so yet. Helps out a lot. Leave a comment down below. We'll have a good conversation. And until the next one, peace out, everybody.